Coming up on Chasing Natty, PrizePicks has released their CFB futures bets, and we're going to go through as many as we can with you guys and let you know which way we're leaning on each of those. In addition, at the very end of it, Brandon and I are going to each give you a 5-pick flex play that we ourselves are putting money on that maybe you can put some money on as well. All this and more coming right after this.
Zappy looking to Jared Stearns, who makes the catch and scores.
What a burst! Trey Vaughn Henderson! As advertised, touchdown Buckeyes!
This is Chasing the Natty, a college fantasy football podcast.
Nice.
All right, welcome in, everybody. This is Jared Palmgren, host of the Chasing Natty podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful ride to your work on this Monday morning. Really glad you guys could tune in and listen to us. We got I would say a relatively spur-of-the-moment show for you guys this week. I'll get into the backstory of what we originally were going to do with this show. And then what we're doing now, obviously, you heard in the intro, we're going to be talking some PrizePicks futures bets today. But in order to help us out with that, we have Mr. Brandon T. Sanders, host of the Future Freshman podcast, as well as host of the CFFU University podcast, and maybe a third show that we'll be teasing for you guys coming up here relatively soon. But Brandon, until then, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. I'm happy to be here. It's been pretty fun. I've had a fun week of being on different shows and podcasts. I'm glad to be on my home away from home here at Chasing the Natty again. It's always a pleasure to be on and joining you as well. I'm excited to talk about some PrizePicks and deciding, to help you guys out, maybe make a decision or two on who you want to take on your 5 players and who we can, make some easy money on as we head into the season. So I'm super excited to be here, man.
Yeah, again, dude, you've been killing it with all the different shows you've been on this week. Like, you've been on a Broncos podcast. Yep. You were on Devi Debate earlier this week as well. Is there any more of them kind of missing?
Yeah, starting to, us being a CFF, the players in college. So there's a CFL podcast coming out where we have some guys from the CFF past. So guys like Hakeem Butler and Jamie Newman that are in CFL. So I'll be joining those guys and showing them, what their production was like. And I've converted a lot of their points from the CFF to CFL and their scoring system and how they can help out their favorite teams. And so I get to learn about some CFL rules. I get to talk to them about the difference between that and American rules. So it should be a good time. I'm excited to learn about the CFL space and their fantasy community. Seems like it's growing just as much as our college fantasy community. So I'm pretty stoked to be on and merge the two. So that'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. We love our Canadians here in the CFF space, and I'm sure that they would gladly show us the CFL space as well. So, again, before we really get into today's show, I do kind of want to describe the background of like what happened with this show. So, the idea for this show started earlier this week when Mike Bainbridge was complaining about the fact that he didn't have any college football bets to bet on. And he was like kind of being driven crazy. And so I just dropped in his reply. I said, all right, I'm just going to make some up for you here just so you can scratch that itch. And I think I did Blake Corum. I did somebody else like passing or somebody. I can't remember who I did off the top of my head. I probably should have that tweet pulled up and everything. So, but the original idea for this podcast was that Brandon and I were going to come on here. We were going to make up futures bets on like how we think players will do for the season. But then PrizePicks just kind of out of nowhere just dropped in their Discord that they were going to have these out by this weekend, and then all of a sudden they were out yesterday. And so if you weren't like watching the CFF space this past weekend, we were all over it, jumping up and down on some of these players. Man, if you guys know anything about betting PrizePicks and DraftKings for this as well, a lot of times when they initially release lines, they mess up and they'll put some guys way too low, way too high, and they'll have to adjust. And a lot of times you'll have to get on them early in order to take advantage. But there's still some guys out here today that are very much on the what are we doing here PrizePicks in terms of their lines. And so we'll talk about all those here with you guys today. We're going to cover the passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards. We're going to try to cover as many of them as we possibly can within a reasonable time frame and everything. I'll kind of gauge as we go on. Some of these guys, it'll probably take us like 30 seconds to cover, and we'll describe whether or not we're leaning over or under. We're going to give you an over or under on each of them, like which way we are leaning. I'll also let you know if I think it's like that sounds about right. I would stay away from this one. So, trying to think anything else here. Yeah. With that pretty much lays out our show for today. Let's go ahead and get into some announcements and housekeeping for you guys. And so, first of all, got to do my spiel. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on podcast, make sure you are following us wherever you are. Make sure you leave any kind of 5-star reviews. Again, I love reading your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts specifically. I also enjoy seeing the little 5-star review number kind of tick up on Spotify anytime that I'm on there. Really appreciate you guys. It's free. It doesn't take very long. And again, I say 5-star review, but if you want to leave a 4-star review and give me some constructive criticism on how to make the show better, that's awesome. I want to hear constructive criticism back from you guys. So keep it up with that kind of stuff. If you are, we are part of the CFF team here at Campus of Canton. It is myself, the aforementioned Mr. Brandon T. Sanders. You have Nick Marquise and Chris Moxley as well. Recently, we have just added our own college football DFS team. That is Mr. Chris K. and Ethan Sowers. They will be running the DFS content for us this upcoming season. They're going to be absolutely incredible for you guys. But in addition to that DFS content, we got podcasts, we got articles, we got rankings, we got CFF ADP, we got CFF tools, stuff for you guys to play around with on the website, different metrics and stuff like that. Check it all out. Become a member on Campus of Canton today. If you want just the lowest tier, it is that is the walk-on tier. I believe that is $2.99 a month, if I remember correctly, Brandon. You tend to remember this stuff better than I do.
I think so. Yeah, $2.99 a month is low as, so that's perfect to hop on in. I really feel like you should do the NIL though. That's where the savings are at. Oh,
the yearly NIL deal. The yearly NIL tier is the gold standard in my opinion. Yeah, it's the top tier, but you get access to all three of the guides that Campus Canton puts out every year, which is a $20 value each. So with that $80 you spend with the yearly NIL membership, 60 of it is already brought back to you by just having access to all three of those guides guaranteed. And that leaves $20 over to literally have access to everything on the site, which is a better deal than a yearly walk-on subscription. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. So I agree with you 100%, Brandon. If you're really wanting to get into it, yearly NIL is the way to go. But if you just want to dip your toe in, it's also as low as $3.99 a month. In addition to that, speaking of the guides, check out the CFF guide. Awesome stuff there. I would say it is one of the things I have been the most proud of working on here at Campus Canton Road just since I've gotten into the CFF space. It is a 231-page guide, has team breakdowns for all 131 FBS teams, has player profiles for 36 quarterbacks, 48 running backs, 60 wide receivers, and 24 tight ends. We list their ADP, their ECR, their height, their weight, all that good stuff. Each one of them's got a little blurb to tell you what we expect out of them this upcoming season. But if you want to go even deeper than that, we have rankings listed there. We have rankings for 60 quarterbacks, 72 running backs, 84 wide receivers, and 48 tight ends. You also get Nate Marquise's freshman 50 player profiles. These are 50 freshmen that we think have a great shot at getting some production and a role in their offenses in year one. So if you're in like a dynasty league and everything, that page is all that kind of stuff that you want for that. And then we also have a sample mock draft that is made up entirely of our June ADP. And then we have, last we have a section that is different team and coaching analytics. Some of it is just looking at different systems, which players are benefit the most out of each system. But also we take a little deep dive into some of these coaches that have transferred to new destinations and how they might affect their new schools. And one more thing, this is something I want to clarify with everyone, is that like the beginning of August, I will be updating the CFF guide, the rankings, the ADP, all that jazz, so that you have the most up-to-date information regarding those kind of statistics coming into the season. So, and that includes the mock draft as well. Again, the last one we did was based on June ADP. This new one will be based on July ADP. So, Brandon, you've had a chance to look at the CFF guide. What would you say is your favorite part of the CFF guide?
So my favorite thing is being able to compare and contrast. One, the graphics are absolutely outstanding. So it's easy to read and easy to kind of see where it's going as well. My favorite thing is taking, our favorite guys like the Phil Steele guys of the world and looking at the CFF guide and looking at the predictor tools and all the tools you can get at campustocant.com, which I highly recommend for everybody, and putting those together in not like a formula, but in it as a strategy. So then when you go into redraft season, which is coming up, if you haven't already seen a lot of redrafts, I'm sure that's booming. And we have conference, play and stuff like that people are getting in there. Still best balls are cranking up. So this is the perfect thing as well. And this also can help you when it comes to things like PrizePicks, which we'll talk about, and who you can see easily partaking in these prize props and being able to go over or under just simply by reading the guide. I know we'll talk about it, but Mr. Chris Moxley was able to do a video for Campus Kent, and he used a lot of the statistics from the CFF guide to formulate his 5 picks. So this is perfect, and I think you guys should go get it, even if you're paying for the 20 or you got the NIL. I think either way, it's great value and it's a must-have, and I'm super excited to see it be updated so then I can check that out and just kind of see as the ADP rises and falls, because I'm just curious when it comes to stuff like that. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for the ringing endorsement, Brandon. I've given my spiel. You got a spiel that you need to give here, though, Mr. Brandon Sanders, because in addition to this show just kind of coming out of us playing around with the idea of futures bets this past week, you, sir, have made an announcement recently regarding a new show that'll be coming to Campus to Canton this fall. So why don't you tell the people about it?
Sure. So, of course, we have come up with the Bet on C2C podcast. This is actually going to replace the CFFU podcast. We'll miss its inception, but the CFFU podcast budded this type of podcast. So you remember last year, if those that watched or listened into the CFFU podcast, we had Campus Picks that is returning, and that is going to be what we're talking about today, which is PrizePicks. So if you're looking for a favorite over or under and trying to make those plays, that's perfect for you. But here's the difference. Now I've added those of Chris K and Ethan Sowers, our DFS team, and I'm putting them to work. So we're going to be a trio. We're going to have guests starting in week 1 all the way through conference championships. So you're not going to be by yourself. You're going to have almost 4 different options from those weeks to choose from. And that's going to help you with guys like DraftKings, who's an optimal player that you could put in there, who's a sneaky good pick that you could put in FanDuel, those type of players that you have. And not to mention, we are going to do DK Sportsbook. So if you're a guy that likes the over and under and you like to run the spread, looking to make a little paper there, we have that option. So you're going to get all of those different concepts all in one show. So, the brightest minds in the business there in the CFF world and the DFS world kind of come together. So I'm super excited. It's going to be something that during the season I think should be a must listen. And I think people are really going to love it. So I'm excited to get started, and we're going to be doing it in week 0. So we don't have very much longer to go. I'm very excited.
If you are interested in making money whatsoever, you need to be listening to this new podcast when it comes out. Again, between Brandon, between Chris, between Ethan, that's 3 extremely smart dudes who know what they are doing when it comes to this stuff. Absolutely give them a listen. I'm sure that Brandon is doing a great job lining up a ton of guests that are going to be equally as smart, if not smarter. And I think they're going to be it's going to be an absolute must listen. I will definitely be listening every single week, and definitely probably be throwing a little bit of money towards whatever these guys come up with each week. So yeah, I think that pretty much gets through all of our announcements and everything. We're already 15 minutes in, so might as well get
rocking and rolling
on this main portion here. So again, PrizePicks has put out their futures bets. They have put it out for passing yards on the season, rushing yards on the season, and receiving yards on the season. One thing I think is incredibly important for people to know, I don't know if other people have kind of been mentioning this, this is based off of a 12-game regular season. This will not count conference championships, bowl games, playoff games, championships, stuff like that. this is only weeks 1 through 13, the regular season. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started into these quarterbacks, because these quarterbacks are based on the passing yards. Again, we're going to go through each one of these. Some of them will be quicker than others. Brandon will give our over or under on each one of these, how we kind of feel. And again, we're going to say over under on a lot of these. Some of these we're going to say we personally would stay away. We'll still pick an over or under. You will see which ones we are really feeling good about at the end of this show. So don't be going and picking every single one of these.
You don't have to write it all down.
don't write all of these down and everything, but we want to give you an idea of like how we're feeling about some of these players. Is a good segue into really trying to figure out how we value some of these players. So let's start off with these three up top here. We got CJ Stroud. His current over-under is 32.5 passing yards. So Brandon, where are you on this one? Over or under?
So CJ Stroud had over 4,000 yards last year. He had the crazy trio that we saw. Honestly, the same is going to happen again. We just see a rotation of great wide receivers coming in Ohio State, and that's not even going to stop even the years past that. Yep. He's setting himself up for a Heisman season. I think he's in high contention along with Will Anderson over there in defense. I say it's an easy over for me. What are your thoughts on CJ?
I'm the same place. I think this is I don't want to say it's as easy of an over as you're kind of making it sound and everything like that. But again, you're right. He threw for 4,000 yards last year. I have no reason not to expect him to do that again this year, except maybe the passing defenses in the Big Ten maybe get a little bit better. But even still, like, again, that's what Ohio State does. They have incredible receivers. Travion Henderson, yeah, he's there. They'll probably want to run the ball a little bit more with him. But even still, he's an incredible pass-catching back, so they're going to utilize him through the air there. Boom, that's more passing yards for CJ Stroud. Ryan Day is known for keeping his starters in really late into the game, even if they're already blowing out their opponent, unlike some other coaches, Kirby Smart. Yeah, I'm definitely leaning over here with CJ Stroud. So, absolutely. Next one here, Bryce Young, 3,681.5 passing yards, over or under on that one, Brandon? I'll start on this one.
Sure.
This is the Heisman returner, or like... Mm-hmm. This is last year's Heisman winner, who threw for 4,872 yards. He would have to take a massive, and I mean massive, step back in order to hit that. Again, like even when you take out the SEC championship and everything like that, he still threw over for 4,000 yards last year. Bryce Young is going to be A-okay this year. I think he hits this over with relative ease, especially with Bama on their, quote, revenge tour this year, as if Bama needs a reason to kick the crap out of every one of the teams they face.
No, but a motivated Alabama is a scary Alabama. And not to mention the emergence, we get Jermaine Burton, we get Tyler Harrell. So I think Alabama is in very good contention. I think Bryce Young, again, will compete for the Heisman, and CJ Stroud and him will battle as far as the two quarterbacks. So definitely agree there. An easy over for me for Bryce Young.
I can definitely agree there. So next one here, Will Rogers, over under 4,600.5 yards. Never change, Mike Leach. Never change.
Never change, never leave.
Brandon,
we had a good discussion in the DMs. We had a discussion. You personally are out. It's a little bit too close to comfort for you as well. We'll go with Will Rogers had 4,739 yards. Of course, like I said, a Leach offense, right? Not much has changed in the offense, I would say, as far as that one. They have some returning wide receivers that are very comfortable. Will Rogers is just a guy that knows how to air the ball out when he needs to. I think it's a repeat of the same production. I think he can get over the 4,600 as he went 4,700. I honestly see Will Rogers at 4,800, if I'm being very honest. I know that's a bold prediction, but I think he can get it done. So for me, it's an over, but I'm thinking you're leaning the other way just to have the other side of the spectrum.
This feels too right to me. I don't see any reason to because again, you're right. This is like right on the money where he was last year. 4,739 yards, and in fact, if you take out the 290 yards that he passed for in the bowl against Texas Tech, he actually hits the under last year. If this was his line last year, so I'm leaning towards the under here. Again, I don't think there's any again, you could say another year in Leach's system. I would say that, but Leach has never really shown a ton of loyalty to any of his quarterbacks and everything. So if Rodgers ever does start faltering and everything, there is a legit chance that he gets replaced by somebody like Sawyer Robertson. But even still, I think he gets close to this line. I think it's a little too right, and I would personally stay away on this one. If I had to lean one way or the other, I would say I would lean the under on the 4,600.5 passing yards for Will Rogers.
I like that. You'll see at the end that I'm very bold in that predicament, but you'll see later.
Alrighty. Next one is one of the most egregious lines out there on PrizePicks. Caleb freaking Williams, quarterback for USC, follows Lincoln Riley to USC. They have him as an over-under of 3,110.5 passing yards. Bruh. Smash the over on
Smash the over, hardcore.
Smash the over on this one. We have seen that when Lincoln Riley gets his quarterback running his system, and there's no reason for, again, Riley last year was just checked out, like didn't want anything, like he wasn't putting in the effort that he should have. He's now apparently at the place he wants to be. He's going to run the system that he wants to run to the fullest extent. He has a very talented quarterback in Caleb Williams. A lot of people expect him to be a future first-round pick. If you believe all of those things, you are smashing the over on 3,110 yards. That is an average QB in the SEC typically. No, Caleb Williams is going to smash this over. I see no, this is an egregious line, and every one of your PrizePick lineups that you do with this should include Caleb Williams going over this line, because the only reason he hits the under here, in my opinion, is if he gets injured.
Exactly. I just wrote as a note, like even with not even starting a full year, 1,912 yards. So that was not even a full year of Caleb Williams. So imagine what he can do now. USC, he has Jordan Addison now. He has Mario Williams. He's got all this talent around him, and Travis Dye that loves to catch out the backfield. So an easy over for me for Caleb Williams. I looked at this one, I literally laughed out loud because I was like, this is an easy over. You'll see for the purposes of this example later on that I didn't take him in my 5, but he's in my other 5 that I do as far as just an easy overs for me to take and win. So
yeah. And again, when you're looking at, I guess we can just skip over to the last one here, but like when Sean Clifford has an over-under of 3,171.5 passing yards, how are Caleb Williams and Sean Clifford even remotely close on these lines? Brandon, what's your thoughts on Sean Clifford at 3,071.5 passing yards?
So I laughed at this one too. I thought it was interesting. He's only hit 3,000 yards just once last year. And, as much as I tout Mitchell Tinsley and I tout, I think Parker Washington's a great one, that's still, if they both get over 1,000 yards, that's still an extra 1,000 yards that he has to hit. So for me personally, unless we have a third wide receiver step up, whether it's Caden Saunders, it could be the other one out the slot position on the other side as well, I'm taking the under for Sean Clifford, to be honest with you. I don't think they can get it done.
He didn't even hit this line last year. Because again, you take out the bowl game, he had 195 yards in the bowl game. He's under 3,000 yards. And then last year, he didn't have a 5-star freshman quarterback breathing down his neck the entire year.
Exactly.
Again, a lot of people expect Drew Aller to take over at one point. I would hit the under on Sean Clifford here.
Same.
Because even if he starts a full year, I don't expect him to hit 3,000 yards in the regular season. And that's even without, again, Drew Aller being taken into consideration there.
Exactly.
So, last one on this line here, Sam Hartman, 3,047.5 yards. I laughed out loud again. I'm with you, Brent. We're going with some of the laughing on this one because let's see. Yes. Hartman threw last year 4,228 yards.
Yep.
And you take away 300 of those yards from the bowl game. 200. Okay, so you take 500 yards away from him because of the bowl game and the ACC championship. You're still at 3,700 yards. That's 700 over this over. In addition, you look at Wake Forest. I'm going to pull Chris Moxley here. I'm going to pull some stats from the guide and everything like that. This was an offense last year that was 26th in neutral game pass script, so they're going to throw the ball a ton compared to other teams. And they were 71st in line yards last year. They've gotten worse at the running back position, so they're not going to want to run the ball a whole ton. and they were 4th in plays per game. All 3 of those combined do not tell me that this is going to be a 3,000-yard passing quarterback. This is going to be a person that is getting closer to 4,000 passing yards. This is an egregious line. Smash the over on Sam Hartman.
Yep, an easy over. The coming back of Green, A.T. Perry in his prime there at Wake Forest. I'm all on board for Sam Hartman over 4,000 yards. It's an easy over for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, let's get the next row of guys here. Brandon, Hendon Hooker, 2,968.5 passing yards. What are your feels on this one?
So last year he went 2,945 yards. So I know it's right on that line. However, this is an electric offense. He's got plenty of weapons to go along with. Cedric Tillman is, coming into probably his last season at Tennessee before he moves on to the draft as well. I say over for Hendon Hooker. I say he gets into the 3,000 marker this year. He's just steadily gotten better and better. I see his ascension, and that system is perfect for him to project himself into possibly a second-round pick in the NFL, possibly third. I mean, he's definitely starting to emerge there near the end of the last year. So I think he carries on and goes over. So I'm taking the over.
Again, you mentioned he was close last year, but he also didn't start for a game and a half to start the season. Like he only threw one pass in the Bowling Green game, so you would expect him to do better than that.
Bowling Green,
next year. And then again, he wasn't inserted until the second half of the game against Pitt because they were already behind and everything. So I would say I'm feeling the over here on Hendon Hooker. Again, a lot of his value is going to come through his legs, but I could easily see him hitting about 3,000 yards in the regular season. All right. Talia Tagovailoa. Brandon, I'll let you, again, technically it's my turn to go first, but I'll let you go on this one because you said you had some thoughts on Talia here.
Sure. And these next two are going to be kind of like my unders, and I'll explain a little bit. But so Maryland is still searching for the wide receiver one. It's not like they don't have talent. We just have a Demas that's coming back from injury. Raheem Jared a little bit on, not what we thought a freshman year would look like for him, even though he did pretty well. And then you have Copeland coming over from Florida, which I think could be a solid, option there as well. I just think they're looking for their identity, to be honest. I still think they're trying to do it. Who's to say that, the wide receivers, they're having a hard time and they don't go running back? We talked about this when we were looking at a guy like Ramon Brown, the freshman there coming into Maryland as far as a run game. Like, we're not quite sure what to make of Maryland. Now, do I think Talia has what it takes? Yes, I think he does. He's proven that he was able to, emerge and get some of these type of yards. But I'm going to play on the thing of caution. Maybe I shouldn't because, I'm going all in on Will Rogers, but this is where my caution comes in. I'm going to say under for Talia. What are your thoughts on the Terrapins and the younger Tua this year?
Again, this is another one where it feels just right to me. They got the line right here, I would say. Again, you take out his bowl game performance last year, he hits the under, but like you kind of mentioned, I think they have one of the more underrated wide receiver cores, especially if all those guys do return healthy. He's going to have plenty of weapons. They don't have like a set guy at running back that I think is somebody that they're going to want to rely on. And so, again, I personally would stay away from Talia Tagovailoa. I wouldn't have him in any of my lineups. But again, if you held a gun to my head and asked me which way I would go to this, I would say barely over, especially since this is Talia's money year. They're going to be playing from behind a lot. He's going to want to impress the scouts. I would say I would lean a slight over here, but again, I'm mostly staying away on that one. All right, last one for this row. We got Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback out of Miami. 3,098.5 yards is his over-under. Again, Brandon, you mentioned that you kind of have some thoughts on this one, so let's go ahead and start with you.
Sure. So last year, Van Dyke had 2,931 yards. He did have a guy like Charleston Rambo to throw to. This year, there's no really stud wideouts that we even want to talk about, to be honest with you. So there's not a true alpha in that system. There might be one that emerges, but it might be a little too late in the season. There's a new coach. So there's the run game option that's a bit more. So an easy under here for me, honestly. I don't think Tyler can get over 3,000 yards this year, even though he got fairly close last year. I think there's a rescind coming for Tyler this year.
Another quarterback that I would personally just kind of stay away from. We don't know what kind of system Miami's going to be trying to run this year. I think they would like to throw the ball, but again, from everything it sounds like with the receivers, they just don't have the people they need to execute that kind of offense. They got some pretty good options at running back with Henry Parrish. You got Jalen Knighton. Don Chaney's returning from injury. Javonte Citizen, if you really think that he can take over in year one. I think they'll be a bit more of a run-heavy system. That doesn't mean that Tyler Van Dyke can't reach 3,000 yards. I think he'll try to throw the ball. But I think I would lean with you a little bit here. I'd lean towards the under again, mostly because I really don't like that wide receiver core and what's going on there.
Same. Absolutely.
All right. Last row of quarterbacks here. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback out of Oklahoma, an over-under of 3,265.5 passing yards. Brandon, I think I'll start on this one. You started the last three.
Sure, go for it.
My turn. Yeah, so we have Dylan Gabriel here, who is joining his old OC, coming over from his old OC was at Ole Miss, but before that he was at UCLA, where Dylan Gabriel and him were on the same squad, and he's very much following Lebby to wherever his new destination was. Again, the rumors were that he was initially going to go to Ole Miss, but then Lebby left Ole Miss, went to Oklahoma, and suddenly Dylan Gabriel switched right over. I see no reason not to expect him to be very productive for this upcoming year. Just looking at last year, Matt Corral was able to hit right about this number, and that was with him getting injured last year. Again, this number is another one that kind of feels a little right to me, but I would lean a little bit more on the over. This is Lebby's, I would say, hand-picked quarterback. We've seen Dylan Gabriel just be uber productive when he's in the right system. Even when he's in the wrong system, he did great under Gus Malzahn before he got injured. So I would say I'd lean the over here on Dylan Gabriel.
I'm the same way. I took over. I easily put Gabriel's been over 3,500 yards each year that he's actually had a full season. Now he's at Oklahoma with a right fit, I think, personally, as far as what he's capable of doing. So and really, really good talented wide receivers. So and tight ends. So I would say the sky's the limit, and I think Gabriel makes the over pretty easily here.
All right, next up here, Devin Leary, quarterback out of North Carolina State. Take away your homerism here, Brandon.
I do.
But his over. I was going to say his over/under is 3,371.5 passing yards.
Yep. I said on Debbie Debate, I think NC State's winning the ACC this year, especially with Clemson just trying to figure things out, and other ACC guys, whether they're taking a step back or they're got a lot of new people in different positions, including the Tar Heels. So I feel like, with Leary, he did 33 yards last year, which is fantastic. He does bring back two of his three top wide receivers, and he does have a tight end that does play in a dual role. And then, of course, we have the emergence of Porter Rooks. You heard it, from Corey Smith during that interview there, the Future Freshman podcast. So it does give me hopes that he's going to get it again. Devin Leary, I think, is the QB3 if we're talking draft status. I don't think it's Will Levis. I think Devin Leary behind Stroud and Bryce Young will probably be the third best quarterback. And I think he'll be drafted fairly high as a really solid backup or a guy that could play in the league. So I personally am taking the higher on Devin Leary, hoping that, those predictions of the ACC championship comes to fruition, even though this is a 12-game system. And I think he does it before he gets to the bowl. So I'm taking over, man.
Again, he hit 3,433 yards in the regular season last year. They did not have any. They did not have any postseason games. I think their bowl game got canceled. So again, this is perfectly within the realm of possibility. It just all comes down to whether or not you can believe they can do it again. And I personally, again, this is one I'd probably stay away from a little bit. And again, I stay away from this one. I would lean towards the over. Because again, another year as a full-time starter. Again, he's got a draft hype building for him, so they're going to want to give him some work to show off for the NFL scouts. I would say I would lean the over here, but again, I would personally keep Leary out of your betting lineups. Last one here. Brennan Armstrong, quarterback out of Virginia, over/under of 3,333.5 passing yards. Man, oh man, they're actually putting in the why am I blanking on the coach's name all of a sudden? Virginia head coach.
Is Elliott?
Right? Tony Elliott.
Yep.
They're putting in the Elliott factor here because when you look at what Brennan Armstrong did last year, he threw for 4,449 yards. If you think that Elliott's not going to be a factor, this is an easy over for you. But if you're somebody like me, where I don't think Elliott is going to allow him to get anywhere near what he was able to do last year, this is suddenly a harder line for me to kind of navigate. Again, if you believe that Brennan Armstrong's going to be an absolute beast again this year, take this over with confidence. But for me, I don't believe in that. And so 3,333 yards is pretty much like an average QB, I would say. And so this one's, again, like I said, this one's kind of harder for me to navigate. Brandon, what are your thoughts? I'll let you know what I think at the end.
You're good. I'm actually with you. I took the under. And I pretty much my notes just said it's possible they may have a few shootouts and they may be playing from behind at times. But I don't think he gets close to what he produced last year simply because of the new systems. And, as we've talked about many, many times, systems in CFB matter. And this is one of those systems to where I have to take that into court, regardless if I think Brendan Armstrong actually has the talented arm to get it done. I just think that him and his receivers are going to suffer a little bit more in this new type of system. You're just not going to see the same shootouts that you saw against North Carolina or Wake Forest in those type of situations. They might be trailing them, but that doesn't mean that Elliott's going to let them just air it out to try to do it. Not every single game. There might be some he has no other choice. But I don't think he takes it. So I think he stays under. I think he's going to be over 3,000, but not 3,300, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take the under.
So again, this is so difficult for me to navigate because again, he threw for 4,400 roughly yards last year. This would be about 1,000-yard reduction. I do think that Elliott is going to be a problem here, but that is a big jump down. And again, I think the volume will suffer. God, this feels a little too right for me.
Yeah, we might stay away from this one.
I would
put him in the main lineups.
I personally would stay away from this one. And again, taking into account the idea that, again, if you're a coach, you're going to want to play to your players' strengths and everything. I don't think he's going to ding Armstrong by 1,000 yards. So or 1,000 plus yards. And again, I'm an Armstrong kind of hater. I've been very vocal about that the entire year, but I would actually lean the over here.
Okay.
A little bit. Again, I just think
1,000-yard
reduction from last year to this year is just a little too much to expect. And again, I don't like what's coming out of there. So we'll definitely see. But that's kind of how I feel about it. Let's get into some of these running backs and the rushing yards. So first of all, before we get too deep into this, I just want to point out that PrizePicks knows they messed up on at least one of these because Chris Rodriguez came out at a line about 1,028 yards, and so many people smashed the under that they have taken him off completely because I think somebody messed up at PrizePicks and didn't realize that there is a possibility of him being suspended. And we all know if he misses like 2 to 3 games, under 1,000 yards is pretty much all but guaranteed. Like that is not going to happen. But unfortunately, he is gone. You can't get him anymore. But I just wanted to point that out. Like that's how badly sometimes these lines are put out when they're first put out. And you can absolutely make some money off of it if you get on it early enough. So let's talk about some of the guys that are here now, Brandon. So
yes,
let's go to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Running back Travion Henderson, over under of 1,265.5 yards. What are your thoughts, sir?
Initial thoughts is, can he make that happen? Yes. Can he get that with all that receiving around him? Is there enough to feed both the run game and the wide receivers at the same time? That's where I kind of struggle a little bit. I say over, but it's one of those that I don't know if I would take Henderson straight up over or under. He'd be a guy that honestly I would kind of steer away from to not have to, gun to my head, over probably, barely. But do I want to take him in the 5 picks? No, I'm going to pass. What are your thoughts on Henderson this year?
So Henderson hit 1,248 yards, including the bowl game last year, as the not full-time starter for Ohio State. He's going to be splitting again with Mayan Williams back there, but it's also his second year. He's no longer a freshman. He's probably taken a step forward this year. Again, I've heard that they want to run the ball a little bit better this year, so TreVeyon Henderson's going to benefit from that. I don't think he's going to have multiple single-digit carry games like he had last year, because like Akron 8 carries, Rutgers 8 carries, Indiana 9 carries, Michigan State 9 carries. I don't think that's happening this year. I think he hits the over here. I don't want to say easily, because again, I'm with you, Brandon, that it feels kind of right, but I would say I would feel relatively confident with an over here, but I think there's better value elsewhere with some of these guys. So absolutely. I lean the over on TreVeyon Henderson, but not in any of my lineups right now. So, Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas, over under 1,162.5 rushing yards. Brandon, go ahead and get us started.
Your beloved Bijan. So let's talk about your Bijan.
Oh, Xavier would be laughing so much at you right now, because again, last year I was like relatively off. I thought people were praising Bijan a little too much last year, and so
yes.
If Xavier's listening to this, he's probably laughing his ass off right now, thinking about.
Also, you had the sweet dynasty name too.
I did have Bijan Demon.
Yes. And now he's no longer on your roster, but it's okay. You had to make those moves.
I had to make some choices. Anyway, Bijan, what do you think?
So here's my thought. As long as he plays every game, and I'll preface it with this, if Texas somehow isn't back, we'll say, or something's going on with Texas and they don't perform to their standards, a lot of people might pull Bijan early and prep him for the NFL draft, because this man is going to be an absolute stud in the NFL. As long as that doesn't happen, this is an over for me fairly easily, because Bijan is an absolute beast. So as long as that happens, however, for me, I will not be taking Bijan in my top 5 picks, because I think it's a little too close for comfort once again. So for me, it's an over, but I'm going to probably take somebody else here in this grid that will be an easy over for me. So what's your thoughts on Bijan this year, buddy?
I'm with you. As long as everything goes right, he stays healthy, he doesn't get pulled, it's relatively easy over for me. But again, there are those questions out there, and I'm with you. There's other value here on the board that I would rather play around with and just kind of hold off on Bijan. So I would stay away from Bijan for the most part.
Absolutely.
So, next up, we got running back out of Wisconsin, Mr. Braylon Allen. So, Brandon, where's your head at with Mr. Allen?
So now, Mr. 18-year-old Braylon Allen, a true...
Yes, no longer 17.
No longer 17 and smashing out the Big Ten. Mr. Braylon Allen at age of 18 is Wisconsin. The run game is heavy. I am not a Graham Mertz guy, nor am I. There's no Jake Ferguson anymore at tight end. I'm not a fan of all the wide receiver options. They got a few that might be emerged later on. However, with Graham Mertz at the helm, I'm not very trusting of that. So I think Braylon Allen is just going to do what he does best in the Big Ten, and that's just smash. So 1,300, I think he has no other choice but to get well over this. I think he can get up to 1,400. So I'm taking an over for Braylon Allen. What are your thoughts on Allen this year coming in with the Wisconsin in this sophomore season?
So since he took over as the lead back for Wisconsin last year, which was in Game 3 against Illinois, he has hit under 100 rushing yards one time.
Wow.
And that was against Minnesota. It was the last game in the regular season. Just had a really, really rough game. Wisconsin just had a really, really rough game all around. He hit over 150 rushing yards twice. 3 times if you count the bowl game against Arizona State. So, I think he has it in him. If he is the true starting Wisconsin running back, he should clear 1,328 yards relatively easily, in my opinion. If he is truly the backbone of this offense and that O-line holds up to what we expect from Wisconsin, I would say the over here on 1,328.5 for Braylon Allen. Again, not an official play by any stretch of the imagination, but if you want to include him, that's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next one's down. Sean Tucker, 1,275.5 rushing yards. So, this one's interesting because I got Sean Tucker at 1,388.5 rushing yards. He has dropped over 100 yards since his line has opened up, people were smashing the under on Tucker. And I understand why they went with the initial line that they did. Dude rushed for over 1,400 yards last year. But with the change in offensive system, that's where I think a lot of people have started to kind of back off a little bit. And I'm going to give a shout out to Xavier here because, again, he argues the other way here. He still thinks that, again, let's go. All right, let me refresh here. Robert Arnay, his offensive system is much more pass-heavy than what Syracuse has been doing in the past. I still think Sean Tucker is going to absolutely smash this year, but I think more of that's going to come in the passing game than last year, and he's not going to be able to actually carry the ball as much as he did last year. I still think he's going to do better than the Virginia running backs did because he's a much better running back than anything Virginia ever had. But I think asking for 1,400 yards from him again on the ground specifically, I think that's asking a lot. I think he's going to complement that with reception work this year. But in terms of, if you're asking me for just rushing production, I think even still at 1,275, I'm leaning the under here. Xavier, again, shout out to him. He and I discussed this a little bit. He is still kind of bullish on Sean Tucker this year. He thinks that Garrett Schrader is going to keep them from doing the pass-heavy offense that they want to do this year, so they're going to run the ball more than Anay's done in the past, and that means Sean Tucker should still smash in the rushing department. That's his argument, and I told him that if you are a believer like that, you love the idea that he has now dropped from 1,388 to 1,275. If you really believe in Sean Tucker, you're getting a great deal right now. I personally am still on the under, but if you really do believe in Tucker, he's at a fantastic discount right now. What do you think, Brandon?
I'm with the same sentiment. No offense to our friend Xavier. You stick by your guys. I do think Sean Tucker is going to do well. He'll be one of the better running backs in the ACC. But I do think the change of the, like I said, systems. I think Garrett Schrader also is a good. He's decent with his arm. He's good with his legs, so he might take away some of that rushing as well. So for that matter, I think that Sean Tucker, I would say, I'd say about 1,100 yards. That's what I'm kind of looking at for him this year. But this says over that. So I would take the under personally on Sean Tucker, regardless if it's been discounted since the 1,300 yards. So for me, it's still an under. I really wouldn't have changed it regardless of the prop itself.
Absolutely. Again, I clearly agree because that you pretty much just echoed a lot of what I said. Anyway, yep. Zach Charbonnet. Over under rushing total of 1,114.5 rushing yards. Brandon, you, I know for a fact, have some thoughts on this, so let's get started with you.
So this is one I did LOL out loud. It was one of those where I saw 11. I was just like, come on, guys. Have you seen Zach Charbonnet? Do you realize he doesn't have a Brown, another running back to get in his way? Do you realize Jake Bobo is the wide receiver 1 at UCLA? I was like, it's writing in the stars. Zach Charbonnet is going to completely smash this rushing attempt. Zach Charbonnet, for whatever reason, decided to hold off on going pro. So I think he just wanted to add more tape, and so that scouts could see what he's doing. And I'm pretty sure Chip Kelly is going to get him ready for the next level since Chip Kelly's been there before. So Zach Charbonnet is easy over for me. It's an easy smash. And you'll see as we get to the end that his is probably one of my favorite ones in this whole entire grid of running backs. So definitely over for Zach Charbonnet for me.
I think the over here is the play as well. Like you said, Britton Brown is gone. They haven't brought anybody else in, which is something that I was heavily looking for the entire offseason because I'm like, UCLA seems like a prime destination for a transfer running back. Even if they don't want to be the guy, they'll be like a backup, a depth piece and everything. They brought in nobody. So Charbonnet is going to get an increase in production this year. He had 202 carries last year. I think he easily tops that this year. Mm-hmm. He hit over on this last year, and he was splitting that backfield with Britton Brown. I agree with you. Charbonnet on the over here. That's what I'm feeling.
Absolutely, man.
So, next guy up here. Travis Dye, running back out of USC. Over under 1,101.5 rushing yards. Easy under for me. Here's the reason why. I went and looked back at Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. What kind of systems are we running here? Has he ever had a running back hit this number in the regular season? The answer is no. He has not. He's had guys that hit 1,000 yards and hit this number when they also play in a bowl, or when they play in the Big 12 championship, when they play then in a playoff game. But in the regular season, he has not had a guy hit this mark in the regular season. And also, that USC running back room has some dudes in there. They brought in Austin Jones as well this year. They still have, they still have one guy from last year. I don't think that we're really looking at Travis Dye being a like true bell cow here. I think he'll be the one. Like, he'll be the guy, but he won't be like him and then there's a mosh pit behind him. I don't think he's going to get bell cow work here. I think he's a clear tier above the other guys, but we just haven't seen Lincoln Riley put a guy out there pretty much since, I mean, the closest you can get was last year with, 2021.
Brooks?
Yeah, Brooks last year. But even still, like, again, history has just shown me that is an exception rather than the rule here. He's going to want to show off Caleb Williams. I'd say the easy under here on Travis Dye.
Yep. To just add on and just to simplify it for everybody else, Travis Dye is a PPR back. He is not a true rushing back. And I appreciate them trying to give him the love that he did at Oregon. But this is in Oregon. This is a Lincoln Riley-led USC, and systems speak for itself. So Jared, pointed it out to you. Without the PPR points, without the receptions, Travis Dye is an easy under for me for this as well. So I'd say, maybe around 900 yards, I'd start to lean over, but 1100, I'm going to say no for me. So it's an easy under for me.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up. Kennedy Brooks last year in the regular season posted 1,111 rushing yards. So even if you are super confident that, like, oh, Jared, you're being too hard on Dye. Look, the last running back he did hit that number. Yeah, he hit that number right there. If you believe in Travis Dye, stay away from this. This feels too bright. If you're like me and think that Lincoln Riley goes back to kind of splitting the carries a little bit more, Travis Dye is an easy under here for me.
Yep.
All right. Continuing on, get some more laugh out loud ones here. Not this one, though. Deuce Vaughn, 1,320.5 rushing yards. Brandon, what are you feeling on that one?
Feels really too right. Right on up the alley of our buddy Deuce. Love what he's going to have going on there. If gun to my head, I'm taking the over. However, I'm going to stay far away from it as far as doing it as well. But Deuce has been proven, and a lot of people are saying that Deuce Vaughn could lead the nation. He's one of those guys that could contend for the Doak Walker Award, and he could contend to have the best rushing attack this year. But at the same time, it's too close on the number, so I'm gonna stay away. But if I had to pick, I'd say he goes about 1,400 yards. I think him and Braylon Allen will battle for that one of those top positions as far as running back for the year. So I'm gonna lean closer to 1,400 if he did go over. So over for me, but gun to my head, and I don't want to pick him in my flex plays. So
I agree. I would keep him out of your flex plays and everything, and doing a little bit of quick math right here. He, in the regular season last year, hit 1,258 rushing yards. I can see him getting a bit of a bump up this year. But also at the same time, you will have Adrian Martinez, who's probably going to be vulturing a little bit down there near the goal line, so may not get those yards anymore. I personally would stay away from this one. If gun to my head, I would probably say it's an over, but I think it's within 50 yards either way.
Yeah.
All right, next one. This is a laugh out loud one. Ready, Brandon? Laugh with me on this one. Jahmyr Gibbs has an over-under of 901.5 rushing yards. Guys. Come on. So, again, Gibbs did not have the greatest year last year at Georgia Tech, but that's more Georgia Tech's fault than Jahmyr Gibbs. Since Jahmyr Gibbs has gone to Alabama, there's been nothing but rave reviews out of him out of camp. They have said that last year when he practiced with the guys before they went off to the championship in the playoff, that many were saying that he might have been the best player on the field during those practices. He is going to be used a ton this year. And the last time an Alabama running back hit under 1,000 yards on the season was 2018, and that is when they had the trio of Damian Harris, Najee Harris, and Josh Jacobs, okay? when you have 3 running backs like that, all in the same tier like that, yeah, you're going to split the carries between them. But we got Jahmyr Gibbs, and then it feels like everybody else behind him at Alabama. I see no reason not to expect Jahmyr Gibbs to hit well over 900 rushing yards this upcoming season. Bama has been very productive at the running back. Brian freaking Robinson can hit 1,000 yards in a Bama system. There's no reason not to expect a back as talented as Jahmyr Gibbs can easily hit that. So, Brandon, is there anything else really to say here? I think Gibbs is an easy over.
Nope, you said it best. Just smash the over as hard as you can go and move on, man.
All right, next one's a little interesting. We got Rasheen Ali, running back on a Marshall, over under 1402.5 rushing yards, so 1,402.5 rushing yards. Brandon, what are your thoughts here?
This feels pretty right. I will say I think there was a change up in some of the offensive line for Rasheen, and I think there's a coaching change. I didn't get to see too much of the write-up. Marshall's defense is fantastic, so it's going to keep them in the game. So I think Rasheen's still going to smash. But 1,400 yards, that's really, really close to what I think is possible from Rasheen Ali. Personally, I'm staying away. If I had to lean, I think there's just a tad regression, so I would maybe take the under on the 1402. That's me personally. What do you think about Rasheen this year?
So last year, in the entire season, including the bowl game, rushed for 1401. So right where this line is at.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him getting slightly more work because it is his second year, but also he was a redshirt freshman last year, so it wasn't like it was a brand new guy. They didn't know whether or not to trust him or not. So I think it's already asking a lot for him to get to 1,400, especially with the insane volume that he was getting last year at times. In addition to that, you go from the COSA to the Sun Belt. You can make fun of the Sun Belt, but that's still a competition jump there that I think is going to be enough to slow him down just a little bit. I would lean the under here on Rasheen Ali. I would say overall. So
yeah, I think it'd be best to stay away. But if you had to take the pick or just want to play contrarian, I'd say take the under for sure.
Yes. Alrighty, we got 2 more right here at running back. We got Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan, over under of 1127.5, so 1,127.5 rushing yards. Brandon, what are your kind of thoughts overall on this?
So I agree that Donovan Edwards is a more of a catching running back. However, I do feel like he is talented enough where he will take some of the carries away from Blake Corum. Blake Corum, when healthy, has been proven to be outstanding. However, due to his injury, we did see the emergence of Hassan Haskins, and he really just never let go of being that type of bruiser that we saw as well. Can Blake Corum be that? That's where the question lies. For me, I've taken a little bit more of an under the 1,100. I still think he goes probably right around 1,000. But if it's in 1,100, I'm going to probably say no for me personally. This is one I'm staying away from, but I'd take the under if I had to make that decision personally.
So last year, again, just doing some quick math in my head, he hit roughly about 850 yards during the regular season on only 136 carries as a clear running back 2 behind Haskins. Mm-hmm. Again, he got injured. That allowed Haskins to really take over down the stretch and everything like that. But he's going to see more carries than 130-something carries this year during the regular season. If he can hit 850 on that, if he can continue that efficiency, I think he could easily get the over here. Now, again, I'm a Donovan Edwards guy. I've been drafting Edwards much more than I've been drafting Corum because I think Edwards is just a do-it-all kind of back as far as I've been able to tell. I just like him a lot better. But even still, I would say I'm going to lean the over here on Blake Corum because, again, if he can keep up that efficiency with an increased volume last year, even if he's not going to hit the insane 270 carries that Hassan Haskins did last year. But if he can reach up to 200 carries this upcoming year, and again, if he keeps that efficiency, I think he could easily clear this. So I'm going to lean slightly over on Blake Corum, but again, I'm with you. I kind of would probably stay away from this a little bit. Last running back here, Zach Evans, running back out of Ole Miss, 1,111.5 rushing yards.
Oh, Zach Evans. Is he even the real Zach Evans? We don't truly know. There's multiple Zach Evans now in this multiverse of running backs. It depends on how you feel on Ulysses Bentley. I don't think that Bentley is a slouch. I think he does take away. We've heard Zach Evans say, I don't want the bulk carries. I want to save my legs for the NFL. He said it by his own mouth. So for me, I still, honestly, he's talented enough where I honestly still think he can get over the 1,100. And I think Bentley can get right on up there, pretty close to 800, 900. It just really depends on how it splits. You're like, no, I don't know. I just think Evans somehow is going to go over this.
I think Bentley getting like 600-700 isn't completely
okay.
out of the
that's probably
question.
A little bit more understanding. Yeah, maybe I'm going a little bit overboard with the Bentley love. But I still somehow think Zach Evans winds up over 1,100 yards, whether it's barely with 11 more yards or he does 1,150. Somehow I think he gets it done still, even regardless if he wants to lighten the load. So for me, it's personally an over, not somebody I'm putting up in any of my lineups, though. So what's your thoughts on Mr. Zach Evans?
I'm staying away. I am with you in that, again, I don't think he'll get the volume necessary for you to fully trust in him hitting the over. But here's the big problem. Zach Evans is a home run hitter. Anytime he touches the ball, he could be off to the end zone. And with a guy like that, that's not somebody you can really bet on. Because, again, you want to bet on guys where you know pretty much every time, on average, what they're going to do every time they touch the ball. And Zach Evans is just all over the place in what he is able to do. He is the kind of guy where he can maybe only have 160 carries on the full season and hit over 1,000 yards. Like, he is that kind of dude. So I would personally just kind of stay away from this because I think there's just a little too much unpredictability there in terms of what you can expect on a per touch basis with Zach Evans. I would keep him out of your lineups. If I had to go one way or another, I would lean the under because I still believe in the idea of the fact that he's not going to get the volume necessary to easily hit this over.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you.
Alrighty, let's go and talk about these receivers finally. Let's see, how many of these we got? We got 12 to get through here, so we got to go. We got to move.
We could go quick. There's a few of these that are easy for me.
That's true. Let's start with the first one. Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver out of Ohio State, 1,436.5 receiving yards. Brandon, over or under on him?
This one I'm staying away from, and because it's too close to comfort. I am a Marvin Harrison guy. I like him probably the most out of the one, but I do love me some JSN. I personally think he might actually get the 1,400 because it's JSN. So if I had to choose, I'd say under, but barely, if I'm being very honest with you. But it's what I'm staying away from. So, but JSN's a beast, no doubt about it. That's why he's one of the first picks going off the board here this year. So
I'm with you. This feels very right to me. If I had to lean one way or the other, I'd actually lean the over just slightly. Again, it's a lot to ask in terms of during the regular season, but again, he nearly busted this last year as the third option on Ohio State throughout the regular season. Again, obviously, he padded his stats a little bit, just a little bit, in the Rose Bowl against Utah, and is now technically the wide receiver 1 from last year. No. He was the wide receiver 3 throughout most of last year. He's now the wide receiver 1 with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave gone. I would lean the over here. But again, better value elsewhere. I wouldn't waste your time trying to pick over or under on an insane line like that. So, next one here. Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. What are you thinking here, Brandon?
So, the man got paid to be the wide receiver 1, to be the alpha. A lot of what we think Caleb Williams is going to produce, I think, is going to come from Jordan Addison. He is the reigning and defending Biletnikoff winner from last year as well. So I think that he could probably narrow into the 1,200, even with Mario Williams in fold and even with the other talented wide receivers and the freshmen like CJ Williams. I think Addison is the alpha this year, and then next year they're going to fight it out to see who's going to kind of hold that one. My take would still be a Mario if he doesn't go to the draft early. So for me, it's an over for Jordan Addison. However, I probably won't be taking him. He's the one I'm also going to stay clear from as far as picking overall.
Yeah. The best case scenario I could find, looking back through the years of Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, 2018 with Kyler Murray, just an absolutely insane year. Only time it looks like that he has had 2,000-yard receivers. Let me just double check 2017 as well. Yeah, 2,000-yard receiver. Got close to 2017, but two guys clearly going above 1,000 yards receiving. That's when he had Marquise Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb on the same team. I think Addison will be the number one this year, and if they're going to be passing as heavy as they did in 2018, I think he could easily hit the 1,300 yards and get plenty of action there. I would lean the over here for Jordan Addison. I do think there is a lot of mouths to feed there, and so that's why I'm not taking him in like the first round of CFF drafts, because I think there's just a little bit too much variance there. But I would lean the over here. Keep him out of your lineups. I think there's other value elsewhere.
Absolutely.
All right, next one we got here. We got A.T. Perry, wide receiver out of Wake Forest. Brandon, where are your thoughts on this one?
A.T. Perry is the top dog. We do get Donovan Green, who was their standout guy that's coming back. However, Sam Hartman's got plenty of yards to go around for everybody. So for me, it's an over for A.T. Perry. I know a lot of people are kind of leaning more on the Green train. They're trying to take him, in the value as far as regular drafts. But when it comes to PrizePicks, I'm not doubting A.T. Perry and the connection that him and Hartman already established with one another. So I'm taking the over here. I don't know if I put him in the flex, but it was one that I was considering, honestly, before I took the one that I decided to go with. So it's an over for me. What do you think about AT this year?
So I think it's a little hard to gauge because AT didn't become AT until probably like October, maybe
right.
maybe a little bit further along than that when Jakiri Roberson started to fade a little bit and everything. So again, I think it's a little difficult. Donovan Green coming back does kind of throw a little bit in here. But again, if you are somebody who's taking A.T. Barry in the first round of your CFF drafts, you're expecting him to clear like 1,144.5 receiving yards relatively easily, I would say.
Yeah.
So I would lean the over here. And he is somebody I'm willing to take in the first round of CFF drafts.
Yep.
Next one up here, let's go down a little bit. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee. His over-under is 1,113.5 receiving yards. This one's an easy over for me. Mostly due to the fact that when Tillman went up against what many called a generational defense in Georgia, dude put up over 200 yards on Georgia. Now, granted, he was also force-fed the ball a ton in that game. But he clearly showed he can go up against the best of the best and still produce. If that is a guy that you are working with here, I think 1,100 yards is very easy for him to clear this year. Hypo system loves force feeding their wide receiver ones, even their wide receiver twos. I think Tillman hits the over here with ease. What do you think, Brandon?
Yep, just like I said with Hendon Hooker, this is a year where I just think, rising tides, lifts all ships. Cedric Tillman is that guy. Like we said, he's one of those guys. If you could do that against Georgia, which was the most ridiculous defense ever, and it was super good. And I honestly, if I had Tillman shares last year, I actually sat him down because I didn't think it was possible. He proved me dead wrong. It was an LOL moment for me. I just kind of like giggled and I was like, this is an over. And this is another one that I thought about putting in my top 5 as far as the selection. So Cedric Tillman's an easy over for me as well.
100%. And give me 1 second to look something up here before we move on to the next guy.
Cool.
Jaden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State. His over-under is 1,100.5 receiving yards. Brandon, you start us off here.
Sure. Jaden Reed's actually one of my favorite dynasty stashes. Just a side note on there as well. He is one that I've had for several years now, and I'm glad that I picked him up when he decided to transfer from Western Michigan. 1,100 though. Here's where we're at now. There's no more run game. We're seeing 2 running backs try to compete for there as well in the Mel Tucker system. We've lost Naylor to the NFL. He actually got drafted, which I think is good on Michigan State to do that as well. Jaden Reed is going to be targeted heavily because this is Peyton Thorne's favorite guy to throw to. So if this was a PPR bet, this would be an easy over for me. But I still think it's a natural habit, or out of at a necessity that Jaden Reed has to probably go over this prop. It's one I'm going to stay away from because it's a little too close to comfort for me. But I do think that he can get over the 1,100 and maybe go by 1,200 by the end of the year before he gets to a bowl game. So I'm taking a yes, but I would say proceed with caution because there is change in the Michigan State system. So that's where I'm just saying they might try to double team him until they can find a resurgent wide receiver 2, whether that's Antonio Gates Jr. or whoever that's coming in. So just be wary that there are going to be times where Jaden Reed might disappear in a game or two, but he'll make it up in other games with better, opponents and stuff like that. So yes for me, but staying away.
So I didn't know which way I was going to go on this one, Brandon, until you brought up the idea of defenses really focusing in on Reed, because I think that helped them out last year a lot, that Naylor was also a threat. You don't have Naylor anymore. You don't have Kenneth Walker. Reed, in many ways, is the only kind of guy we know on this offense. Obviously, Peyton Thorne's the quarterback and everything, but Peyton Thorne hasn't really been the threat. It's been the guys around him. So last year, Reed in the regular season caught 946 receiving yards last year. Again, I could see him getting a bump up this year, which is why I'm a little okay with 1,100. But again, you're right. More defenses really kind of keying in on him, not being able to get the volume that he was getting last year. I think I'm leaning towards the under here on Jaden Reed.
Yeah, it's really close for comfort. I would just say stay away for those that are involved, they're thinking of Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I can see that. So let's move on to the last one on this row here. We got Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. Over under of 1,078.5 receiving yards. Oh boy. Brandon, I'll let you start off on this one while I gather my thoughts.
Sure. LOL. Xavier Worthy all day, every day. Wide receiver 1 at Texas. Quinn Ewers coming into town. Even if Ewers doesn't do good, I still think he gets the job done. Incredible arm by Quinn Ewers. Xavier Worthy is going to benefit. We saw what we saw in the spring game. Why aren't you taking Xavier Worthy over 1078 immediately? Easy over for me. He was in my my thoughts in top 5 until we talk about this next player. And then I was like, oh, this is an easy one for me because I know the system. But other than that, Xavier Worthy would actually be my pick for wide receiver. Him and Tillman are the other two that I say would be an easy over for me. And even if you want to play all wide receivers, these, the next guy we talk about and these two picks are perfect for that situation. So I say go for it.
I'm with you, Brandon. LOL on this one. Last year as a freshman, Xavier Worthy had 62 receptions for 981 yards. Granted, actually, no, they didn't play in a bowl game. So that was during the regular season. So already as a freshman, he was only 100 yards below this line. He is getting an upgrade at quarterback in Quinn Ewers. And when Sarkisian really gets his offense rolling like he wants to do, even if it's not the best quarterback play in the world, again, obviously Mac Jones proved a lot of people wrong. But let's go back to that 2020 season at Alabama. Let's look at that top wide receiver, shall we? Who was that? Devontae Smith. Yeah. Just a little guy named Devontae Smith. 1,856 friggin' yards. That game again, that year I would have to take out some of his championship games and stuff like that as well. Let me look at it real quick. But even still, you take out 345 yards from the postseason and everything, pretty easily hit the over there. And he wasn't even the wide receiver 1 throughout most of the season because Waddle started as a wide receiver 1 throughout that season. Xavier Worthy, even if for some reason, let's say worst case scenario, Nayer's the wide receiver 1 for some reason, Xavier Worthy becomes a wide receiver 2, plenty of volume to go around there. I think it's pretty easily to expect Xavier Worthy hitting over 1,078.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for sure.
Alrighty. Next 3 we got here. Brandon, this is your boy, so I'm going to let you start on him. Josh Downs, wide receiver out of North Carolina. Over under of 1,073.5 yards. What do you think, sir?
I say don't sleep on the Tar Heels. They are the post-hype sleeper. Josh Downs is going to be fed every which way. It doesn't even matter the quarterback, whether it's Drake May or Jacoby Criswell. Both are talented quarterbacks. Both can get it downfield. You saw in the spring game. I saw it with my very own eyes. Josh Downs is dominant. You saw in the ACC Media Day. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's ready to prove people that they were maybe too hyped on him last year, but they need to be hyped on him this year because the turnaround is coming. Josh Downs is coming into his year where he's likely going to be drafted into the NFL, so this is his year to shine. We do see, Antoine Green return, so I'm looking at very similar as far as both two wide receivers. And, as Dre Green Jr. gets used to the playbook, I still think Downs is the dominant guy, and, Dre Green Jr. will take over next year with the new recruits that are coming in. So Josh Downs is all over the field. This is an easy over for me, and he's very much a flex play for me this year, so it's an easy over for me.
I'll be real quick with this one. Last year, even with defenses truly keying in on him and taking him out of games in the last 4 or 5 games of the season where he couldn't find the end zone, dude still hit 1,200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's really going to be moving around and they're really going to be utilizing him in more creative ways this year in order to get him the ball in creative ways, no reason to expect him not to repeat that performance. I think it's a pretty easy over here for Josh Downs.
Absolutely, man. Easy smash over.
Easy smash over. All right, next one we got here. Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver out of LSU. Man, this is a hard one to gauge because we don't really know what's going on with LSU. We don't know what kind of offense they're going to be running. There was rumors that Boutte probably wouldn't even play. I think those have subsided for now. It sounds like he's got the number 7 jersey. Sounds like he is going to be somebody that they're going to want to focus in on if Brian Kelly is smart. And to me, if they are serious about utilizing him and getting the ball to him as much as possible, which they should, I think it's a pretty easy over here. His over-under is 978.5 receiving yards. Again, if they are serious about utilizing him in the way that he should be, easy over for me here, but again, I'm probably staying away a little bit.
Yeah, I'm staying far away from this one. Boutte news can be all over the place. I do see that he is doing well as far as his videos and things like that. He looks in great shape. Like I said, if Brian Kelly's going to play smart football and get it to his best weapon, this is an over for me. But I am staying clear away because I'd rather sit back and watch LSU for a few weeks to decide what I think before I do this. So for me, I personally will not be taking this prop bet at all. So,
No, I think that's absolutely fair. Next one up, we got Nathaniel Dell, wide receiver out of Houston, over under of 1,043.5 receiving yards. I am staying away on this one because last year in the entire season, he had 1,329 receiving yards. Take away his bowl game, take away the AAC championship game, he's right back down to where this is, which would put him at 1,027 receiving yards. So it's right there, right next to that 1,043.5 receiving yards. I'm staying away from this one. Sounds too right to me. I don't see Nathaniel Dell getting like a huge jump up in production. In fact, I can maybe even see a little bit of a step back possibly because, again, you got our boy Matthew Golden coming in there. I still think he's going to smash. He'll get over 1,000 yards, but I think it's going to be hard for me to place a bet on this one. I would lean. God, I don't even know which way I would lean on this one. What do you think, Brandon? Maybe I'll just go the same direction as you.
Sure. One, he's not Tank Dell. You see it right here. PrizePicks gets it right. It's Nathaniel Dell. Also,
Tank Dell. What
a name. Also, you hit the nail on the head. There was no dominant wide receiver two. There is a very dominant wide receiver two this year in Matthew Golden, who I think takes the realm at Houston next year when Dell, goes to the NFL. Dell is a smaller wide receiver, so he's very shifty. I think he has, that type of momentum like a Josh Downs where he can get to the field. Me personally, I'm taking the under. I don't want anything to do with this bet, but I would probably take the under only because of the emergence of Matthew Golden and, of course, having, Campbell in play. And I just think that Houston can get the ball around more than just relying on Dell like they had to last year. So it's a different Houston this year.
Again, I'm with you. I think it's too right. I'm not going anywhere near this one. I would lean the under, but I won't even say lean. I tilt the under. Like it's like I really think it's another one of these things where he finishes in terms of receiving yards. I think it's within 25 yards of where they have this line, and to me, just stay away from that. All right, next one's a little bit interesting here. You got Parker Washington, wide receiver out of Penn State. They have his over-under at 999.5 receiving yards. So effectively, they're asking, do you think he hits 1,000 yards in the regular season or not this year? Last year, Washington put up 722 yards during the regular season, but that is, of course, they had Jahan Dotson at that point, and Jahan Dotson just absolutely killed it the entire year. So it was hard for Washington to really kind of step up when all the focus was in there on Jahan Dotson. And in order to get to 1,000 yards in the regular season, that's at 280 additional yards that Parker Washington would need to have this year. I think that's a little bit of a tough call, but I don't think it's impossible. Even though we have your guy, Brandon, Mitchell Tinsley, taking over that X position there on the outside, I've kind of thought to myself that, like, I could see Washington being more the, like, middle of the field, yardage kind of guy, and then Tinsley becomes that guy down near the red zone. And so, like, I could easily see Mitchell having more touchdowns than Washington this year. Even last year, Washington only had 4 touchdowns, despite all his work through the air. It's a tough call for me. I'm going to lean the under because, again, I've kind of stayed away from Parker Washington for the most part. But, again, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility of him going over. What do you think, Brandon?
So I'll have to stay hashtag on brand. So I like Parker Washington. I think he's a great receiver. We've talked to Colin on Future Freshman podcast, and, he is the Penn State guy. Ethan's another one that I've talked to a few times. They think that Parker is going to lead in receiving, but when it comes to touchdowns, it's Mitchell Tinsley. I personally am very bullish on Mitchell Tinsley. I think he's a lot more talented than what people lead on to be. And I think that this jump up to the P5 is just Tinsley just moving his draft stock up and showing people that he's capable of doing it. So I think personally Tinsley leads in both yards and touchdowns. But I still think Parker Washington does contribute. However, because of some of the other guys like a Caden Saunders, I keep forgetting another one. He's got the 3-letter name, but he's also on the other side. I feel like he doesn't quite get 1,000 yards. So for me, it's an under.
Keandre Lambert-Smith?
Yes, KLS. So for me personally, Parker Washington doesn't hit over 1,000. Is it possible? Yes. I know this is a very close call. Some people don't want to take it, but for me, I have to hold myself accountable as being the Mitchell Tinsley guy. So I smash the under and I put him in my flex place because I have to put money on where my mouth is. So for me, it was an under. So, but for most people, I wouldn't recommend probably putting him in your flex play, but for me, you'll see where he is. But it's for me holding myself accountable that I am the Mitchell Tinsley hype train guy. So that's just me.
Yeah. All right, let's hit these last few guys. They're pretty much the reasoning is the same, and we're laughing at both of these. Ready, Brandon? We're gonna laugh again. 1, 2, 3. Anyway, Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, over under of 906.5 receiving yards. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver out of Alabama, 889.5 receiving yards. That's criminally low on both of those guys.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a starting outside wide receiver for Ohio State this year. That's a ticket straight to 1,000-yard regular season right there. Jermaine Burton's going to be one of the starting outside wide receivers for Alabama this year. Once again, likely and he's also a speedster. That's going to be a ticket to 1,000-yard season right there, especially if they're going to throw the ball around a ton this year. And if they're going to be as efficient as they are this year, I think this is an easy smash of the over for both of these guys. I won't hear any arguments against.
No, oh my gosh, this is criminally under. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. PrizePicks does their thing, right? But these are easy wins for me. These are ones where I put them easily in my wide receiver ones that I took the overs on in my other flex play. So these are easy wins for me, guys. If you don't see it, then I don't know what to tell you because these guys are if Marvin Harrison was in another offense, he'd easily be a wide receiver 1. He's just around a lot of talent, but easily 1,000 yards in Ohio State. Jermaine Burton he's a dog. He's an alpha. Jared will tell you from his time even at Georgia, he was able to produce when he was on the field. This is a wide receiver one. I don't know why this doesn't say 1,300 yards possibly for Jermaine Burton. So.
Again, the fact that he even couldn't get him to 900, what is
ridiculous.
That? Yeah. What is that?
I don't know. Same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe there's Alabama hate there with being PrizePicks out of Georgia. So
yeah, because you're actually kind of right. Because Bryce Young, 3,600, that's too low.
Yeah, I get it, man. You guys won the national championship there in Georgia. Congrats, guys. But come on, man. Show at least some of these players some respect.
You're acting like a Georgia fan wrote these lines. I don't know. Probably maybe he's an Auburn fan or something like that.
It could be Auburn. You never knows.
Dude, imagine losing your company so much money based on pure
bias.
Spite. Pure spite of a fan base. Gotta love it. Alrighty. Let's finish off this show here and everything. We're gonna run through our official, the ones that we put money down on. So we'll run through mine real quick here. And again, I'm gonna hit some of the ones that I thought were the most egregious. Jahmyr Gibbs, over 901.5 rushing yards. No reason not to expect a running back one at Alabama to easily clear that. Jermaine Burton, number one wide receiver at Alabama this year, over 889.5 receiving yards. Again, easy over for me there. Marvin Harrison Jr., we laughed at that too. Outside wide receiver at Ohio State, over 900 yards. Yes, give me that all day long. Caleb Williams, over 3,010.5 passing yards. He's gone up a little bit since then. He's gone up 100, but even so, that's egregious. And then lastly, Sam Hartman, over 3,047.5 passing yards. And these aren't ones that you had to get there early in order to get the value on these. You can still get all 5 of these right here in this range. I would put this ticket in and just forget about it and watch you count your money later.
Yep, exactly. I think this is nothing but you might go 5 for 5, just like you did in the CFFU podcast. This is definitely a win, and it's good to have something that just you can guarantee to have money. So now you have something you can use for deposit for even next year. So I think this is an easy win on your end, man.
Alrighty, let's go through yours, Brandon. So those are my 5. Just to recap again: Jahmyr Gibbs, Jermaine Burton, Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, Sam Hartman. All 5 of those over. All right, let's set up yours, Brandon. Here we are. Also, I really apologize to all of the listeners who are listening to the thunder constantly going off right now. Normally, I have my full setup and I can keep that kind of stuff out, but unfortunately, because I'm visiting down here in Savannah, I didn't bring all my equipment with me. So if you're continuously hearing thunder or you're wondering what the hell is that noise, probably the thunderstorm going on outside. Anyway, Brandon, let's run through your guys here real quick.
Yep. So luckily our storms passed for now. Sounds like we might get more coming out of your way eventually. But until the storms hit, we can talk about this lineup as well. Will Rogers, 4,600 yards. I know it's too close to call for some, but I'm very confident in Will Rogers in Mississippi State. Mike Leach system. I'd smash the over. So for me, it's there as well. Zach Charbonnet was the easy victory for me at running back. I think it was an easy over. I'm very confident that he'll hit that as well. Josh Downs, the homer pick. And of course, he went well over this prop last year. He's going to be used every which way, an easy over for me as well. Parker Washington is my accountability pick as the Mitchell Tinsley guy. I need to hold myself accountable, but that Parker Washington will not go over 1,000 yards. So do I recommend it to all of you? No, but I am confident in myself and what I've seen from Mitchell Tinsley that this will not happen. So for me, it's a under for Parker Washington. And then finally, Dylan Gabriel, coming to Oklahoma in that system, he's been well over 3,500 yards when he's completely healthy. I couldn't say no to Dylan Gabriel and watching the good times roll. He's also one of my dynasty quarterbacks, so why not put a little extra incentive to watch Dylan Gabriel play this year? So it's an over for me as well.
I would say, again, I like your lineup. I would lean the same way on pretty much all of these guys, except for maybe Will Rogers. But again, I voiced my disagreement earlier. But I personally, again, with just the way you were talking about some of the guys like Cedric Tillman or Xavier Worthy, I'm really kind of surprised you didn't put either one of those guys in your top 5 lineup here, because they seemed a bit more solidified in your mind of clear values. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I did hear on some other shows about people taking them. So I did want to give, just a different
fair point,
perception to go along with it. And just guys that they did talk about Zach Charbonnet. I did hear that from both Eric and Mike. So that I thought that was really strong argument. So that's why I took Charbonnet personally. For me, I'm always going to take Josh Downs and bet on the farm with him. And for me, like I said, the Washington pick was just being contrarian and then just sticking to my, being on brand and just being the Mitchell Tinsley guy. So do I recommend this lineup? No, but I wanted to show you, that there is options out there that some are an easy smash. Some of them are challenging. So it just kind of depends on what type, if you want an easy win or if you want to challenge yourself. So that's the best part about PrizePicks, guys. That's the best part.
I'm not gonna lie, I might have pooped my pants a little bit on that last lightning strike.
Did you get hit by lightning?
That was close. That was close.
Oh boy.
Dude, it is coming down right now. I'm looking at the shed in the backyard and everything. The doors are just like flying open. It is nuts over here, dude.
It's like a horror movie.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of our show here, y'all. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, this is a fun, just a relatively long conversation, but again, it gave us an opportunity to really talk about some of these players, how much we like them this upcoming year, who we think just overall in betting markets is being undervalued. And it is a great little teaser coming up for some of the betting content that Brandon, Chris, and Ethan will be providing you guys once the season gets started. Bet on C2C is the new pod. And Brandon, have y'all decided on what day you will be releasing that during the season, or is it kind of been going back and forth on different ideas?
Yeah, it's been going back and forth. We initially were thinking Friday, but if there's a way that we can get out maybe a day or two earlier than that, there's an option for that as well. It's just talking to the rest of the team and deciding what day fits better for the lineup. As far as audio wise, video, it'll be as soon as we can get it available and put out for you, so you will get that in video format.
All right, sorry about that, guys. As Brandon said to me, the storm won. You can definitely still hear it going on in the background. I got my power knocked out there for a few minutes. So we're just going to go ahead and wrap things up here a little bit. Again, check out Brandon's new pod. Again, it's not out yet. It'll be out probably in the next upcoming weeks. Brandon, you got a week 0 episode planned out. I know that's going to be fantastic. And then I'm not going to go through my whole spiel just in case that there is more lightning strikes and more power outages. But you guys know all the stuff to check out here at Campus of Canton for all your CFF redraft, CFF Dynasty, Campus of Canton League needs. We have all of that good jazz here. And yeah, again, we'll appreciate you guys. The season's right around the corner. It's going to be here much quicker than any of us are expecting. We only have 5 more Saturdays until the full regular season starts off, and 4 more Saturdays before we get to week 0. So it's really right around the corner. Can't wait to make more content for you guys in season. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.